You are listening to the Nirvana Podcast, Episode 4, Bleach, Side B. Hello everybody and welcome to the Nirvana Podcast. My name is Sietse.
And I'm Juditja.
Yes, and we're back in our great podcast studio.
Yes.
Also known as my kitchen.
Kitchen.
Yeah, in my apartment in Amsterdam. And today we're going to talk about Side B of Bleach.
Yes.
So we're going to flip the final. We talked about the first half in the previous episode and we're going to talk about the second half of the album in this episode. Anything you'd like to share with us before I hit play for the first track?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Great. Oh, I know somebody who has something to say. It's our good friend Chad Channing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is he somewhere in the kitchen?
Yeah, here he is. No, I almost forgot. Chad Channing was the drummer during the Bleach sessions and after that as well for a short period of time. I came across a YouTube video with an interview with him, and he said a little bit something about the recording process of the album. So I'm going to have a listen to that first, and then we're going to go to the first track of the second half.
To begin with, I think we got pretty lucky to actually make the record that we did for only $600 US. Because I know that the very next time I ever made a record, it cost a lot more than that. So it's kind of a rare thing. I think it's just one of those things that you never really know when you go in the studio and you record, and somehow, I guess it was just magic there that week or something. Because it only took us just a little over a week just to record the record, so it didn't even take that long to record it either. But yeah, I look back on it now and I think, wow, how did we ever do that?
Yeah, so he was pretty happy with it, looking back at it. Nice. I think this was from an interview from, I think even this year, 2019, something like that, pretty recent. So apparently there are no hard feelings about how it all went down. And it's nice to hear him say that, it all went so smooth and relaxed. And he talked about that it took them about a week, which is true if you count the number of days, but it's not a week in a straight row, because they recorded on Christmas Eve 1988, December 29th, and then December 30th and January 24th of 1989. So that's when the recording sessions were. So it was actually only four days with sessions of about 5 hours, and
it's still pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and pretty cheap. But we already talked about the budget of the album last time. So let's have a listen to the first track of Side B, which is called Scuff. Yeah, so that's the opener of the second half of the album. How do you like it?
I have mixed feelings about this song. When you really listen carefully, there's a lot of interesting things happening, but it's sort of too much.
What are the interesting things going on in this song, in your opinion?
I think there's what I love about it is the way Kurt is singing, because you can feel that these lyrics are important to him. It feels really sincere, it feels really heartfelt, and there's really interesting things going on in the instrumental parts as well. For me, it doesn't really all line up, so it doesn't feel like one perfect track. So that's why I like a lot of it, but I don't like the whole of it, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I get your point. It's an okay song, I think, but it doesn't stand out to me. I do agree with you that it sounds pretty sincere. You know, with especially the opening line, "In your eyes, I'm not worth it." You know, if you dive into Kurt's youth a little bit, as we did in the first episode of this podcast, well, you know, he had a lot to do with rejection and not feeling welcome and at home. So that does seem to express his feelings about that.
Yeah, apparently this song relates a lot to his dad, so yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, me too. But then again, "Give me back my alcohol," that's a bit trying to toughen it up or something like that, and trying to be cool.
So. Yeah, or could be because in other songs he sometimes gets into a persona as well. To me, it sort of feels as if they're two different people. So the person singing "Give me back my alcohol" isn't the same person as the one singing like the first part of the song. But that's just my interpretation. I have no idea if that's how it was meant, but that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I never took it that way. I always thought, well, you know, he starts off with a couple of lines in which he's a bit vulnerable, and then, you know, "Give me back my alcohol," that's really, you know, trying to be a bit more cool and tough again. You know, it's not about my feelings, it's about I want my alcohol.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But "Give me back my alcohol," I always ask, well, who took it?
Well, if this is about his dad and his childhood, then maybe his dad took it.
Yeah, and he well, wasn't there the story of his mother once taking a bag of weed from him?
Yeah,
and then she ate it and she got really stoned, something like that.
Yeah.
It does sound like a typical Kurt story, which isn't entirely based on facts, perhaps, but yeah, maybe something like that went on with his dad, but then it was about alcohol.
To be honest, it could also be that line, because basically you have that first verse and then you just have that line. That was just something that he added and maybe has no real relation to the rest of it.
That sounds pretty plausible as well, knowing Kurt as a songwriter. Like I said last time, I have the 30th anniversary edition of this album. And well, basically what they did is they put on a lot of extra tracks from a live concert. Not even an extra disc. They just managed to cram it all on one disc. But none of the second half songs of Bleach are on the live tracks. Except for this one.
Right.
Yeah, it's a concert at the Pine Street Theater. I think from 1990, I'm not sure. But it says something about how they felt about most of these songs on the B side of Bleach. Let's have a listen to just a small fragment of the live version of Scuff. It sounds a bit more energetic.
Yeah, much more metal-like, even a bit faster.
Yeah, and his voice sounds a bit more rough. Yep. And it's funny that you say that's a bit metal-like, because I think one of the things that makes it sound a bit like a metal song is using the double bass drum.
Right, yeah.
It's really a typical metal thing to do, so. Okay, so anything else about Scuff, or want to move on to Swap Meet?
Let's move on.
Okay, so here it is. Yeah, apparently the working title of this song was White Trash. And then he considered writing Swap Meet with M-E-A-T.
Right.
As like a sort of a pun, I suppose. But in the end it's called Swap Meet. And I've read that that's a sort of a local Aberdeen thing, like a gathering of people selling off secondhand stuff and food as well that they prepared, especially to trade off on those gatherings. And I must say, I really like the concept of this song.
Yeah.
The lyrics, I think the lyrics are better than the music.
Yeah, I agree. But to me, Kurt's lyrics are best at the moments that he is really depicting a scene. He sees it in his head and he writes that, then we see it as well. And I think this is one of those songs where he is really depicting something that he knows and that he wants to talk about. And that makes it into more coherent and interesting lyrics, I guess.
Yeah, and it's written in the third person about a man and a woman at the swap meet.
Exactly.
But it's not like a story with a real narrative or plot or anything, but it's just like a little sketch of people that are going to gatherings like that, and that he knew from his youth, I suppose. Yeah. So I like the concept of it. I was saying.
I agree. I do think that maybe these two songs, the previous one and this one, shouldn't have been put back to back like this because they're too similar. For me, that doesn't work because it sort of all blends into one thing.
I must say, I think you just described the complete B side of this album, because I think that's a problem with this collection of songs in general. Mm-hmm. I pretty much like most of the songs, but I don't think they really work together, because the best songs they had and the songs that stood out the most, they put it all on the first half of the album, which was probably a smart thing to do. Talked about this before, but the guys from Sub Pop decided to do it this way, and I think they were right in doing it. Yeah,
definitely, because don't know it by heart, but I read the order that the band wanted previously, which I don't think was like the best idea. So this is definitely better.
I just looked it up in my notes, and the order of the songs that the band wanted to have, they would also put Swap Meet in as the second song of the B side, but the rest of it is completely different. So it would have created the different dynamics, because then you would have first Love Buzz and then Swap Meet. So that would be an interesting change of dynamics and sound. But
definitely.
And I must say that there's some pretty good writing here. I'm really happy that he didn't call it white trash, because it would be so, taking those people down. And, with lines as he loves her more than he would ever show. There's some sensitivity in there as well. It's not just fuck off, you stupid people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for some reason I always really like the line, he keeps his cigarettes close to the heart, he keeps the bitterness close to the heart. I don't know really what it means, but it sounds really cool and interesting.
Those lines have they have a poetic quality, obviously. Like you said, he shows those people, and you sort of feel how they're feeling, and that works with those lines as well, I think. Yeah. It's nice.
You have anything to add about the music of this song?
Again, there's some interesting things happening here, but it doesn't have enough hook for me, I think. I think this is... although I know that this is a song that's quite popular with a lot of Nirvana fans. Which which I get, definitely, but I tend to like songs that have like a clear hook much more. And this one is lacking that a bit for me. Yeah,
true. It's also another song that they didn't continue to play live a lot. No. It hasn't been covered a lot either, but we have an interesting cover, a live cover actually, from a band called Goat Punishment.
Yes.
And that's
the famous band Goat Punishment.
Yeah, that's probably a name that doesn't ring a bell, but it's like a stage name from the band Weezer. I must say you came up with it, because I didn't hear from this until earlier this week when you sent me an email like, hey, have you seen it?
Exactly. I didn't know this previously either, but I was doing some research and then I found this, and apparently Weezer, a band that most people will probably know from their like immense hits about 15-20 years ago, Buddy Holly.
Yeah, that was the breakthrough song.
That was their breakthrough song.
With a video from the Happy Days series.
Exactly, yeah, that one. And they made great albums after that as well. But if you're like, Weezer, who were they? Then probably then you recognize them.
Hashpipe was always one of my favorite Weezer songs.
Yeah, that was a good one as well. But apparently the guys from Weezer are really big Nirvana fans, and actually one of the reasons for them to start their band back in the days was because they loved Nirvana, amongst others. And they did a concert covering only Nirvana songs, just playing 90 minutes of Nirvana songs, and they used that Goat Punishment moniker to do that. Yeah.
And the next time they performed as Goat Punishment, they only played Oasis covers.
Yes.
So, make of that what you will.
They have an eclectic taste.
Yeah. So let's listen to the live version of Swap Meet by Goat Punishment, aka Weezer. Well, that didn't sound too bad, did it?
No. I think they tried to do it quite faithfully.
Yeah.
But it's weird to hear this song done by a singer who has such a different voice.
Yeah.
True. Sort of doesn't fit.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Yeah,
I also think it's pretty cool that they mostly played lesser known songs of the Nirvana catalog in that concert. So that was pretty cool.
And they recently toured with the Foo Fighters.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Cool.
Making that connection even now.
What? That doesn't have anything to do with Nirvana.
Sorry.
Oh wait, isn't Chad Channing the singer of the Foo Fighters?
I think so.
Okay, Mr. Mustache. Yeah, that was Mr. Mustache, one of the most funny titles, I think. Kurt once drew a comic called Mr. Mustache about a typical redneck guy with a mustache and a can of beer in his hand who lies his ear on the belly of his pregnant wife. And he says that he wants a really typical American male. And then the final picture shows the kid kicking through the belly of the wife right in his face, so it's a pretty graphic comic, and I think that has led a lot of people to think that this song is also about typical redneck chauvinistic males, but I don't think that really fits with the lyrics.
No, I agree. It's logical to think that because of the title, but as we know, the titles didn't always reflect exactly what was happening in a song, so it could well have been that this was just sort of a match of words of something that Kurt was thinking about and isn't exactly the same story as the Mr. Mustache.
I don't think it is. I think it's more about you could say the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. At this time, Kurt was living in Olympia, which had this more artistic scene, but also with some strict ethics. I think there were a lot of people in the scene were against using alcohol and drugs, eating meat. Well,
they were hipsters.
They were hipsters, so to speak, and well, Kurt is singing, yes, I eat cow, I am not proud. So I think it was more about that, help me trust your mighty wisdom, delivered in that sarcastic way. I think it doesn't, more about that.
Yeah, it doesn't, something like I eat cow, I'm not proud, doesn't sound like a typical redneck parody.
No.
That would be probably I am proud.
Yeah.
So,
big difference. Yeah, there you go. So I think what happened is that Kurt just liked the idea of having a song on there called Mr. Mustache, because he reused titles and just general words that he liked on several other occasions as well. And also there's an early take of this song in which he didn't have the lyrics just yet.
Yeah, right.
And maybe, but I don't know that, maybe the song was already called Mr. Mustache before he even wrote the lyrics. Yeah.
Could well be.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that version?
No, I haven't actually. I know it's there, but
let me play it for you. I love how he handles it. Yeah, I really love that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's so clear that it was never meant to be released or anything. And little did he know that 30 years later...
Yeah, we would listen to this.
Yeah. And it shows that he hadn't finished the lyrics just yet, but he knew how we wanted it to sound.
Yep. Yeah, because that's interesting, because it is exactly what is eventually on the track, as far as the sound and the amount of words and whatever.
And syllables, yeah, it's exactly the same. So it also shows that he just needed to write down words that fit that structure.
Exactly.
And the timing and stuff like that. So, well, he always said himself that people shouldn't attach too much meaning to his lyrics. Yep. And, well, he wasn't completely wrong, of course, but...
So we'll refrain from that as well.
No, we won't. No, we'll analyze them all. Yeah. And then there's another musically interesting thing about this song, which, again, you pointed out to me, because I never heard this song, I must say. A striking similarity with the guitar riff, or I think it's the bass line, from the song European Sun by the Velvet Underground. And I have that one lined up as well.
You killed your European son. You spit on those under 21.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear similarity.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not sure if it's intentional or just by accident. I mean, they were big fans of the Velvet Underground. I think we mentioned them before.
Yeah, we did.
And I can imagine that if you listen to something quite often, then it gets into your music. So but it's interesting because it's obviously a totally different song, and also, I mean, the Velvet Underground and their sound is pretty unique. Like, bands and artists from all decades have listed them as an influence, but nobody has ever sounded exactly like the Velvet Underground. So I think this is a really nice combination of being influenced by them and then making something entirely different. Yeah,
he totally did, even though the riff is pretty much the same. It always sounds a bit to me like something you play to practice.
Yep.
Like you want to practice playing the notes on the guitar or the bass for that matter.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's basically playing a short scale and being as fast as you can.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
Oh, they could do it faster. I'm sure. Yeah, but it's a cool similarity, and it's also interesting that it's already the second time that the Velvet Underground comes up. I must say I don't know that much about the Velvet Underground, so
Should I educate you?
Well, maybe. And if you do a good job, we'll start a Velvet Underground podcast next. Yeah. No, I don't know that much about him. Actually, for a long time, all I knew about the Velvet Underground was the Nirvana cover of Here She Comes Now.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Sifting?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I must say, I think this is the weakest track on the album. I don't really like this one. No, I think it's slow, repetitive, a bit, frankly, just a bit boring.
Yeah.
Not very interesting lyrically as well. I think it's not a good song to end the album with, because originally this was the last track on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going out with a bang, so to speak.
No, it flows away.
Yeah.
To me, this song feels like it's not entirely finished yet. I think there's some interesting stuff in there. I like the exactly the point that you just played, like the changing in tempo, which is nice. I like how the guitar is slightly off, which makes an interesting sound, because it's sort of, you feel that there's something like not matching together.
Yeah.
And I just wish that they explore that a bit more, and maybe even the fact that it's a bit slow, like did more with that as well, because like you say, now it feels just sort of repetitive.
Yeah.
But I think it could be an interesting song. It just
isn't. It's definitely not one of my favorites.
For me, there's a discrepancy between sort of the lyrics and the music in this one. In most of the other songs, you even if you don't always catch the story behind the lyrics, they do have like the same sort of feeling. And for this song, it doesn't really feel like the lyrics and the music fit together somehow.
No.
It's like the music feels quite at ease. But the lyrics aren't really. There's something going on there that just doesn't fit.
Wait, let me play just a small piece of it in which we actually hear some of the lyrics, because
The singing isn't that inspired either.
No, I feel the same way.
And apparently, this lyrics-wise, it should be a sort of like a reckoning with like people who told him to do stuff.
Yeah, pretty much every authority figure you can imagine, like parents and teachers and preachers.
Exactly.
But
but you
wet your bed, wouldn't it be fun?
It's not very interesting lyric-wise, and you don't feel it.
No,
I
don't really know. When I was reading about the song, somebody theorized that the line "Your eyes," teacher said, would refer to if you're in class and you've smoked weed, that your eyes
of course,
turn red.
Yeah.
So I could relate to that just a little bit, because I remember once in high school that we skipped a class and we smoked some weed, and then we went back to school, and it was a horrible idea, because I was really afraid that I would get caught, and I don't think I ever did that again, but at least it was something I could relate to. But I'm not even sure if that's what Kurt meant with "your eyes," teacher said, preacher said.
No,
I don't know.
No, but if there's something in there that you can relate to, that's something, right?
Yeah.
Even if that isn't exactly what it's about, but that's always the thing with lyrics anyway.
Yeah, that's totally true.
To me, this song feels like, I can imagine if I were to see Nirvana like play live and I didn't know them, like you would be at a festival or whatever, and there's this band and they're playing a song and they play like the first song, you think, oh yeah, nice, good, I'll stay and listen, and then they play this one and then you'd be, okay, I'll go and check out some other band. I mean it has sort of like, sure, it's okay, but I've heard this like done better by so many other.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Also, I don't think that the song benefits from its position as the last track on the album. Like I said, well, I'm basically like all the tracks on the B side, but not as a whole. And then this one of the weaker songs that also sounds a bit the same as the previous ones, but just like a lesser version.
Yeah.
Then if they
put this one before Swap Meet, that would have been better, I think, because then you'd at least have like a slow number in between, and you'd go out on my moustache with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Also, there's an interesting. Well, not that interesting, but there's an outtake from this song. Again, I think because maybe Kurt hadn't finished the lyrics, or because they just didn't record the lyrics because it's a completely instrumental version. Right. So let's have a listen to that as well.
If you listen to it like this, it sort of sounds like a Metallica tribute band or something like that.
a slow Metallica tribute band. Yeah. Well, there is a very slow version of it, a cover version, which I kind of liked, especially for a song that I don't really like, by a band called Big Hush. I took it from a tribute album that's made of entirely dedicated to the Bleach album.
Oh, yeah,
so they covered every single song on Bleach. Several bands did, and this one kind of stood out to me. So here's Sifting in the version of Big Hush.
Cold, ain't cold. Your eyes teach you so.
So it's up to you. Nirvana or Big Hush?
Oh, I don't know. I was sort of kind of interested until the harmonies kicked in. I was like, no.
Why not?
No, that doesn't work for me. It's interesting. It's interesting. But no.
No, okay. Well, like we said, it was supposed to be the last track on the album, and it is on some original versions of the album. But pretty soon there was a reissue, and they put on 2 extra tracks. First of the 2 bonus tracks was a Big Cheese, which they had already recorded as a B-side for the Love Buzz single.
Yes.
And I think it's the exact same version.
I think so.
Maybe they remixed it. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it sounds like this. Do you understand why they left off this song initially?
Yes and no.
Explain yourself.
Yes, I think this version is really rough. it still sounds like a demo. It doesn't work for me as an album track, but you can hear that that there's a good song somewhere in there, and I can imagine that this would have went down really well at live shows. And I wish that some of that energy would have been on here.
Yeah.
Because that's lacking.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I kind of like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would.
But I like the song. I just it's sort of the
production.
Exactly.
And I get your point, but even this version I like better than, let's say, Sifting.
Right. Yeah.
Or I would trade it for some of the other tracks as well, I think. And I'm not alone in this opinion, because apparently this is one of the favorite Nirvana tracks from our good friend Chad Channing. And I can understand why, because there's some really cool drum parts on this.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, the guitar parts aren't that interesting or that complex even. Like most songs on this album, it's only like based around 2 or 3 chords.
Yep.
In this case, even 2. But the drumming is really, really cool. He wrote some really nice drum parts for it.
Definitely. I've always wondered, I don't know if you know about that, but it's always been said that this song was about one of the 2 managers of the record label. Yeah,
Bruce Pavitt and Jonathan Poneman.
Yeah, apparently this was about Jonathan. Big cheese, it's not about cheese.
No.
That's like
slang for the big boss or
exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah. But seeing how long this song was already on their repertoire, it sort of feels weird to me.
Yeah.
Because it's like the whole problems that they had with their label and differences in opinions that came later than this song.
I totally. I've been wondering about the exact same thing, because this song was the B-side of their very first single.
Exactly.
And at that point, Kurt was really happy that he could record a single.
Exactly.
I don't think he. Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I'm questioning if he really was already having hard feelings about those 2 guys. He was really happy with the single at first.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
later he dismissed it, but that's what he did with a lot of things.
Yeah, and also I think that like the lyrics are about like corporate managers and stuff like that, but that could have easily been about lots of other people in general.
I mean, he has worked shitty jobs for a couple of years at that point. So
and also let's not forget that he tried to get a record deal with a lot of labels who all turned him down. So it could have been about those other labels as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And this is the very first original song that Nirvana ever released. I mean, it's pretty cool that your very first song already start fighting with your
exactly, yeah.
record label bosses, but I'm not convinced. But
no, maybe it's something that he said like later on. I don't know. I'm not sure where.
Maybe he wrote it about people like that, like bosses, authority figures.
Exactly.
And then later he said, it's about guys like those guys from Sub Pop. And then people took it, he wrote it about specifically about him. But I don't know.
No, timeline-wise, that doesn't add up. So.
No, that's right. And also from this version, there's an alternate take, and I think again, but we'll have to listen for it. It's in a different key.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Obviously, the harmonies are not in this version. Does that make you appreciate the harmonies in the final version a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's. I'm always happy as soon as there's a bit of harmony in.
I know, that's why I asked. Yeah.
But however, this version does have a bit of energy that the other version lacks, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a nice song.
Yep.
So I get why they threw it on there as like an extra track.
Yep. Definitely.
I don't get why they chose the next song to put on the re-release of the album. It's a 1 minute and 43 seconds long song called Downer. Yeah, and again based around just 2 chords.
Yep.
I don't think it's their best song. I think at this point Kurt was way past this level of songwriting.
He tried to imitate Black Flag.
Yeah.
This is definitely like the Henry Rollins way of not singing but just making your statements on the music.
Yeah.
And he tried to imitate that, and later on he dismissed it as.
Yeah, it wasn't his style.
No, he
didn't
tried
really
it, which is nice, but it doesn't belong on a CD. On the other hand, as a fan, you want to hear everything. So
yeah, that's true. But well, it's like a typical track that you want to put out later on like a box set.
Exactly.
It's have a listen to this interesting early song that he wrote, and you can hear what he was trying to do, but he was still trying to find his own voice and his own style and his own message. But somebody made a decision to put it on the Bleach album, at least on most versions of it. I don't agree, but I think I've made that clear.
Yeah, the way that sometimes songs were just added and then taken off again and whatever wasn't that logical back then, and it wasn't logical later on with those re-releases either, because it sort of feels like they just put something on there that was convenient, just like you said with like the live versions on the 30th anniversary. It's like slightly random. Yeah,
they just took a live show from roughly that period, and which had probably a good quality of audio, and then put it on there, and that was it. Yeah, but I don't know who made the decision to put a Downer on the album, but I do know that Nirvana had better songs, and had even recorded better songs that weren't on here, because they were later released on the Incesticide album. So that kind of puzzles me, but hey, like I said, it's only 1 minute and 43 seconds, so... So to close off side B of Bleach, the album as a whole, how do you judge it?
I think it's an interesting album with like highs and lows.
Yeah.
It's definitely not perfect. You can hear bits of the Nirvana style in there, and you can also hear a lot of external influences that they were trying out. All of that combined makes it a less than perfect album. It makes sense that at first this wasn't like, I mean, some artists like released their first album and then everyone's like, oh my god, this is that didn't happen yet with this album. People later on, when Nirvana became really big, came back to it and discovered it, and rightly so, because there's a lot of great stuff on here, but especially album-wise, which back in the days was pretty important. It's not, it doesn't convince enough yet.
Do you still listen to the album?
Yeah,
even if you're not preparing to do a podcast about it.
Yeah, not that much. No. Also, I think because the songs that are on there that I really like are also on other albums or compilations, and there is versions of that you listen to. It's been great, like really doing that in-depth listening again for the podcast, and then sort of re-evaluating what you liked about it.
Yeah.
And there's great stuff on there, but it's not perfect yet.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's pretty unbalanced.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I said, the B side is really needed some different flavors as well. Like the A side has, there's a lot more variation on it.
And also that what you said about like the last song on there, I think if it gone out with a bang, you would have felt more that it was like one album, and now it just sort of fizzles out. Yeah,
they should have saved a strong song to end the album, in my opinion. Kurt also said himself that he thought the album was really one-dimensional, and well, like I just said, he had a habit of dismissing his own work and being happy with it at first, and then pretty soon have second thoughts about it, and then at least claiming that he would totally hate it. But he isn't wrong. I mean, it is pretty one-sided, and I think for a part it has to do with the production. Like we said, they had only $617
and some cents.
And they had only 5 sessions. They put on some demo recordings on here, so you can hear that. But also it's his songwriting. A lot of the same chords. And also lyrically, I think there are some really nice lines on here and some interesting themes. But it's a lot of the same stuff about his childhood and his youth and authority figures in general. And sometimes it feels sincere, and sometimes it feels a bit generic. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. It's a bit of a hit and miss album.
And I think you can also hear that, I mean, they were still young. They were trying to find their voice as a band. And that's also something I think you hear sometimes, that it feels constructed in lyrics and also in the sound, and that's sort of where it's lacking. Yeah,
it's true. But you can see something in there that would later really really flourish, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I mean, I know back then that I was like blown away hearing this, and lots of people were. So there's enough in there that at that time was really sensational.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it wasn't a big commercial success, but it wasn't meant to be, because it was on a small underground label, and keeping that in mind, it did pretty well. I think. Also, I'm thinking about the Big Cheese story. One very important thing that happened during the recording sessions of the album is that they got a contract.
Right.
I love this story. I don't know exactly. Awesome. I don't know the exact date, but at one day Kurt went to the library and he read a book about the music industry, and then he got the idea that they should have a contract, because they didn't. They already started recording the album, but everything was done by handshake. None of the sub pop bands had a contract. And he talked about this with Chris, and then one night Chris got really drunk. Well, not just one night, I think most nights Chris got really drunk, but on this particular night he decided to go to one of the sub pop owners. I forgot if it was Bruce or Jonathan, but he went to his house. He started banging on the windows. The guy came home late because he was at a party, I think at his neighbors or something like that. And then just Chris, really drunk, demanded a contract. And he's a really big guy, and he was pretty threatening. But those record label owners, they didn't have a lot of knowledge about stuff like this either. So they just, looked up like a standard contract, and they made it up really, really quickly, and then they signed it. I think it was for 3 albums.
Yeah, something like that,
and at that time, it felt like a big victory for Nirvana, because, now they had a contract, and they were entitled to do more recording sessions, and they would make money from it. But in the end, it pretty much saved the Sub Pop record label.
Exactly. It wasn't the best thing for Nirvana, but it was for Sub Pop. So
well, I think Nirvana did well financially as well. Yeah,
of course. But
and
it was more of the benefit eventually for Sub Pop.
Absolutely, yeah. And so Sub Pop, survived, and they would put out really cool music later on, even.
Still do?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite bands called Iron and Wine. They're on the Sub Pop label at the moment. Yeah.
Cool.
So if you're listening to this, check them out as well. But don't do that if you expect something that's in the realm of Nirvana, because it's more in the realm of what they're called? Big Hush.
Yeah. I was just...
If you thought, well, the Big Hush version of Sifting was the best thing I've heard in this entire podcast, then check out Iron and Wine. And also if you like really good songs.
I can vouch for Iron and Wine being better than
Big Hush.
Big Hush. So if you were torn by Big Hush, then do still try Iron and Wine.
Yeah, it just reminded me the whole Big Cheese story. It's so bizarre to look back in history and see how much coincidence went down.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's still so interesting that Nirvana and Sub Pop sort of rose to fame together. And there's not that many record labels that you really know about that well. And like we mentioned last time, like the guys from Sub Pop really wanted to be a label like that, like a label that people would know, and they definitely achieved that. So in the meantime, I looked it up in my notes. Mm-hmm.
The book Kurt read was All You Need to Know About the Music Business.
That sounds like the right book to learn.
And it was Chris going to Bruce Pavitt's house to demand the contract.
So not to the Big Cheese.
Not to the Big Cheese, or I don't know. And it was January 1st. I'm not really sure if I'm reading that correctly because I write really sloppy. They signed the contract. So apparently...
Well, if he was at the party that night, that would make sense if it's New Year's Eve.
Yeah, maybe the next day. I don't know exactly, but I think it's a really funny and funny story about how small things can have very big consequences. Yep. So I think that's mostly it for the Bleach album. Well, one more thing. It was the recording sessions were finished at the end of January, but then the album only got released in June of the same year, 1989. I don't know why it took so long, but...
No, I know that the band was really annoyed by that, but there must have been a reason for it. Sub Pop wouldn't sit on something that could make them money potentially, so there must have been some reason for them not to release it yet.
And what the band did for most of 1989 was tour.
Yep.
And tour and play gigs for very small crowds most of the time. But about those touring days of Nirvana, right before and right after the release of the Bleach album, that's what we're going to talk about next time.
Yes.
So I hope you will join me again next time. Is there any song from the B side of Bleach that you'd like to request to go out with?
Let's then get back to Big Cheese.
So that was it for this time. I want to thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me once again in your kitchen.
Yeah, also known as the Nirvana Podcast Studio.
Sure,
I mean, why do you think...
where famous drummers come to visit.
Yeah, absolutely, and steal fruit from my fridge. Put that down, Chad. Also, I want to thank... our great piano player Joep Hullegie from the
Nirvana piano.
Or Piano Nirvana.
No, it's Nirvana Piano.
From the Nirvana Piano channel on YouTube and SoundCloud, on which he plays a lot of Nirvana songs on piano. It sounds pretty cool. And of course, I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. And we hope you'll tune in again next time. Bye.
Bye.